Hello, welcome to Restorative Flow tonight. Yeah, it was brought to my attention that we're all sitting all the time. I guess it's not really to my attention. This is quite normal. Um, but especially during what's happening right now, a lot of people are going online, as are you, as am I, to do classes, to learn something, to connect via Zoom and digital media programs. So I wanted to talk a bit today about the pelvis. What's also happening is a lot of people are much more active and they're going outside a lot and they're doing a lot of walking um, and a lot of more physical activities while standing. So in both of those things, there are certain consequences that happen with our spine and with our pelvis. Hold on, I'm actually going to turn on the light a bit. That should be a bit better. Okay, great. So tonight we're going to do some low back stuff, but more importantly, we're going to focus on the pelvis and the spine and how they work with each other. I'm going to be using a few things. So if you have a strap, I would get one. Just anything that's nice and long with a bit of strength to it, because we're going to be actually using it on our feet and kind of pulling in and out. Okay. And you don't want anything too flimsy that might snap. Also, have a small pillow or a few blankets. We will need this. So a small cushion, you could use a big bolster like so, but honestly, that might be too big for what we're going to do tonight for a lot of bodies out there. I would prefer just a small, thick pillow. And then as always, have a few blankets nearby because we'll use those in the last position. So get those now if you don't have them. And if you're still here, tonight what we're going to focus on is the spine and pelvis. And I want us to become aware of the point of our bones. So bones hold us upright, and they're kind of what all the muscle and tissues and all the more flimsy parts, more fleshy parts connect to, and it's what keeps us upright, as well as fascia. However, a nicer approach to our bone structure is to understand that the bones are meant to transfer weight. So we're always under the assault of gravity. And that's, if you can think about that, that could really help the way you stand, the way you walk. And the more upright and the more stacked and flush that the system is, the more gravity just transfers through rather smoothly. The more that it's twisted or slouched, the more that pressure, instead of going through the bone or the skeletal system, it pushes down. So a big consequence of us being on our phones, maybe we can decide, is when we come on our phones, head comes down. Now, when we bring our head down, the first thing that happens is usually the rib cage follows, and then it kind of comes down like this. And studies are actually showing that on the top of the spine is beginning to lengthen a bit longer in younger people, and it's showing up in adults as well. And that's a consequence of the head coming down and the bones being pushed up. So we're going to address some of that today. So come to a cross-legged seated position. Bring the hands to the knees. Close the eyes. Breathe through the nose. Take a few breaths and just check in. Let the tongue fall off the roof of the mouth. So I want you to start thinking about your pelvis. We often call it our hips, but that massive bone at the base of the spine. And I want you to think about your spine as well. And now that we're in a sitting position, oftentimes when we sit for a long time, the pelvis begins to arch back. So it tilts back. And we can sense that, maybe not the pelvis itself, but we can sense it in the low back arching. And now, is there anything you could do with your abs, flexing or releasing, where you could feel that the pelvis or the low back no longer feels an arch to it? Just try to make a little adjustment if that's there. And then move up from the base of the spine into the middle of the spine in the thoracic area, and kind of where you start to meet the back of the ribs. And does it feel like the ribs might be slightly tilted forward? Or they might even be tilted up. And can you move your ribs forward, backwards, or like forward and back, yeah, without moving your low back? So we're just kind of bringing the chest up and down in a way. Can you keep your low back very comfortably still? So it's not flexed to stay still, it's just not being used. And then find that moment where the ribs feel and the spine feels just stacked straight up. And then come to your head, and we're going to do something similar. Can you bring your chin in, chin up? And just kind of go back and forth a few times. And you want to find a place of efficiency, I guess. So it's not just a place of comfort. So and whenever you find that place, just pause and keep your head there. So the reason why it's a bit hard to say comfortable is that oftentimes comfort is based off of habituation. So it's what you're used to doing. Um, so it can be comfortable, but also think about efficiency. Think about gravity moving through the spine, pressure filtering through, trickling down like a nice stream. Nothing's blocking it. It's not hitting any bumps and going any other direction. And instead of comfort, you're looking more for ease. And stay here for a few more breaths. Okay, so now we're going to slowly open up our eyes. Okay, look forward. Now, we're going to go backwards, and we're going to understand a few things that happen to the emotional body when we kind of come out of alignment. So, first, I just want you to bring your chin, just your chin, try to keep the ribs and the pelvis and all the spine comfortable, upright, with ease. And just bring your chin down. Stay there. And access your mental state. Is this causing any feelings? So, one of the immediate things about this is I cannot see what's happening in front of me. And now bring the chin all the way up. Stay there. What does that feel like? And then bring your chin to level. So remember, place of comfort as well as ease and efficiency. Okay, so from there, we're going to come down to the ribs. I'm going to go over what this is doing after we get the experience of it. So here, I want you to keep your pelvis comfortably in the place of efficiency and ease. I want you to keep the head in the place of efficiency and ease. And I want the ribs, just the ribs, to tilt in, to slouch, and to flare up. Okay, first, just bring the ribs in. Naturally, your head is going to follow this movement. And the reason is because the head is supposed to stay efficient with the spine, so it's not going to curl up too much. Once you slouch the rib cage in, then try to look forward, which will cause your chin to have to come up a bit. Stay there. Notice your breathing. Notice how the body feels. Imagine if you were like this for the whole day. Now flare the ribs. So the ribs are coming back to stack, and then they're arching towards the ceiling. Try to have your low back still relaxed here. So this is key, that you're not arching your low spine near the pelvis. Pelvis is still very comfortably there. So in this position, what do you feel, especially if you had to bring your head back level? And then bring your ribs to central, the place of comfort, place of ease. Okay, good. So the reason we went through that is so we can try to start understanding how to move our ribs, how to move the head. And now we're going to do more with the pelvis, but that's going to be more when we're laying on the mat. The reason we do this is that most of the time, if you sit at a desk, your pelvis is going to flare back. It's going to tilt back. After about 30 minutes is normally when that shows up in most studies. What also happens is the rib cage slouches. Okay, and when the rib cage slouches, the head comes up a bit. So this is what happens, and then we see this rounding of the spine from the back. We see a collapsed rib cage. What ends up happening here is that when the rib cage collapses, the ability to breathe gets lessened. And if you notice, if you just bring your rib cage in and you try to take a deep breath, it's hard, and it almost induces a bit of panic. And oftentimes, when people go through a state of anxiety, the rib cage does collapse and it causes a problem with breathing. Okay, in state of panic. Same idea when the shoulders or when the rib cage is flared out high. This is causing a lot of strength happening in my back, and it's causing this artificial sense of exuding myself forward. This often shows up in people who can be, due to insecurity, can end up trying to portray that they're bigger, taller, and more of a threat. This is what animals do in the wild when under perceived threat, is they puff up. Okay, but what this really is just flexing, and it's not comfortable. So from here, let's go ahead and come to the mat. Keep your strap nearby. Go ahead and move the pillow or blanket out of your way and lay on your back in a constructive rest. So if you want, you can put the pillow underneath your head if that is more comfortable for you. Be sure that it's more comfortable in the sense that it's genuinely comfortable and not just something you're used to doing. Okay. So from here, we know what we're doing, but now we're going to focus on pelvic movement. So we're doing arch and flatten. On the inhale, arch the belly up, and exhale, just stay here. So make sure both feet are on the ground, thighs are parallel, relax the shoulders. Notice your pelvis. Feel the base of the spine, the top of the pelvis, and feel the bones there. Notice your pelvis is tilted away. Okay? So now on an exhale, just relax your back, fully relax. And then engage your abs, flatten your back to the spine, and feel your pelvis tilt in towards your belly button. Stay there. Okay, good. So now we're going to do an arch and flatten, but we're going to more focus on just the pelvis moving, not paying too much attention to the muscles turning on and off in the back and the abs. So inhale, arch, belly comes up, pelvis tilts away. Exhale, release, flatten. And keep going. So you can make this bigger than you normally would, because what we're doing is we're going to close our eyes and just focus on your pelvis tilting away, tilting in. Keep this movement going. And I want you to think about your mid-back, your thoracic spine, where the ribs meet the back. And I want you to relax that as much as possible. So in your arch, make sure that the arch is only coming in from the low back. You're not bringing up the mid back at all. So very lax, lazy mid back to upper back. Keep going and think about your chin. Is it moving? Hopefully the answer is yes. If not, try to relax your neck. Relax the front of the neck, the back of the neck. Notice that as you tilt your pelvis away from you, your chin comes towards your chest. As your pelvis comes towards the floor, the chin moves away. Good. Okay, so go ahead and pause and relax in constructive rest. Stay there for just a couple breaths. Close your eyes if you haven't and focus on your pelvis and spine again. So that movement was primarily coming from the low back and the abs that were moving the pelvis in and out. So now I want us to just work on the flaring of the rib cage. So remember when we were tilting the rib cage towards the ceiling or slouching the rib cage in. Try to do that now. Little bit of movement. It's not a big one. And try to do it without your low back really coming into play too much. It can be a bit of a challenge. And we're doing this one somatically, so it's very slowly. Flare the rib cage up so like the mid upper back lifts off the floor and the mid upper back melts down slowly. Let's do a couple of those. If your low back is turning on a lot, that's okay. Just try to go a little bit slower. Good. Go ahead and pause, relax, release. Okay, so if that was a bit troubling, sometimes it can be difficult to have just the mid upper back move. Now what you want to do is flatten your low back to the mat. So engage your abs a bit, tilt the pelvis in. And it's a gentle ab flex, not too much is happening, just your low back stays on the mat. Now isolate your mid back, mid upper back, and try to have your ribs flare out. Keep your low back mostly on the mat. And then relax the ribs down. It's a tiny, tiny movement. And then once you do it a few times, you can go a bit bigger with it. And you notice that you actually have some decent control over just your rib cage. Do it a few times, flare the rib cage out, flare it down. Good, and then pause, release, relax everything down. Okay, so now we're going to do an arch and flatten, but we're going to use the whole back. So most arch and flattens, we only focus on the low spine and the pelvis. This time, when you inhale, I want you to arch, tilt the pelvis away, and let your rib cage flare up as well. Stay there. So now you should feel this really long curve on your back. Relax the shoulders, chin coming towards the chest. And then exhale, just fully release the entire back. Feel the rib cage come down, the low back flattens, engage the abs, press the ribs slightly down. And do that again. Just keep doing that. Inhale, arch the whole back. Exhale, release. Very slow. And this time we're going into full somatic movement. So as you inhale, notice the mid back, the low back, flaring, flexing. And on the exhale, you turn all of that off. Ribs to flatten down. And then you turn on the abs to flatten the low back. Good. Keep going. Close your eyes. Think about your pelvis, your spine, and your ribs. Visualize them. Visualize the pelvis and the ribs as being separate things that you can move independently, but they're still fully connected and integrated through the spine. Good. Do one more. And the next time you come all the way down, just stay relaxed, fully turned off. And then test. Just do an arch and flatten with your pelvis and low back only, so your ribs stay very lazy. So notice you probably need to go less of the distance. Exhale, releasing. Flattening the low back. And then release that entirely. And then switch to the rib cage. Just inhale, flare the ribs up. Exhale, release that. Flatten the ribs slightly down. And release that. Good. Okay, wonderful. So now, let's get that strap nearby. So for this, if you can take your little pillow underneath your pelvis. Okay. Take that strap, keep your left foot onto the mat, and swing your strap around your right foot. So if you don't have a strap in any way, shape, or form, and this is just not available to you, the other way you can do this is you can interlace your fingers around your right thigh and just try kicking through the right heel. If you do that, make sure that your kick is so gentle, though, that the ligaments behind your knee are not going to freak out. Okay? So there's positive stress onto the body and there's negative stress. Positive stress is nice, it's controlled, it's therapeutic, you feel supported and safe. Negative stress is damage. You don't need any of that. So when you got the strap, first, I just want you to kick through the heel and then try to pull the leg back just a little bit. And you want to try to have this little wiggle show up in the right leg. Might be easier to bend the right knee a bit and then pull the strap towards you as you kick away. And eventually an involuntary shake kind of shows up. Just try to hold that. You can do the same thing by interlacing your fingers around the thigh, below the knees, so you're not holding behind the kneecap, you're midway down the thigh. Get a nice shake. Good. Now let the leg fully straighten to what's comfortable for you. And you're going to make circles. And relax in your right hip. Don't try to ground too much down through the left foot. And increase your circle if you can. You can release a bit more of the strap. You might feel clicking in your hip. Oh, I wonder if you can actually hear that. Mine clicked majorly. So big circles. It can be a big oval if you want instead. Good. Now bring the strap straight up. Have the left leg be nice and strong. And just go a bit towards the left. So right leg towards the left. This should feel really nice along the IT band. But again, no sudden pain. Not again, I didn't say at the beginning of class yet, but you should be avoiding all pain. Positive stress only. We'll be here for 2 more breaths. Can you notice where the stretch is coming, not just behind the leg, but can you feel your right glute, the upper right area of the right glute, the external hip flexor? Come back to center. Stay right there. And then bring the right leg to the right. So you really get to choose how deep you want that to go. But try to keep your torso, your pelvis is all facing straight towards the ceiling. It's just the leg that's going out. And with your breath, just send it to the internal hip area. Find peace in this. Good. And slowly bring the right foot back towards the right head so you're kicking high and behind you. Go as far as you feel comfortable. Good. And again, you can do this by holding the thigh as well and having the knee be a bit more bent. Good. Okay, now remove the strap. Keep it nearby. And now we're going to really focus on our torso, our ribs, our pelvis as we bring the right leg down. So flex through the right heel, straighten the right leg, pull up the right kneecap a bit, and very slowly come down. Once your right leg passes your left knee, pause right there. And I want you to make certain that you breathe, you relax, you engage your core, tilt your pelvis in, okay? And you keep that pelvis tilted in. Do not let it move as you bring your right leg further down. Go as far as you can. Maybe your heel touches, maybe it doesn't. If the heel does or doesn't touch without your pelvis moving and without trying to bend the knee, that's not necessarily an indication of flexibility. It just could be your glutes on the pillow, the height of the pillow. Just go as far down as you can by keeping that right leg straight and kicking through the heel. Think about the ribs, relax the back, and then bring the heel down to touch the floor if it can. If you have to bend the knee a bit. Good, and then fully relax, turn off. Stay right there. Okay, so very slowly bring the right foot back to constructive rest onto the mat. Take a moment just to notice how the right leg and the left leg feels. Just compare that. And then we'll switch to the left leg. So strap goes around the left foot. Get that wiggle, which means you bend the left knee first, kick into the strap, try pulling the foot close as you kick away. If you're not used to doing this, it takes a few kicking, pulling, trying to find the sweet spot. Stay grounded through the right foot. Remember, if you're grabbing the thigh instead and not using the strap, keep that thigh a few inches away from behind your knee. I'm sorry, keep your hands a few inches away. Good, and go and let go of the strap. Oh, sorry, no, keep the strap on. I forgot, gotta make our circles. So just make a small circle. Doesn't really matter what direction you go, clockwise or counter. You can switch and then slowly begin to increase the size of your circle so you can release a bit more of the strap. You can go out further, to the left, to the right, down, up towards the head. This is not an exact movement. This is really just about opening up the hip socket. And also teaching the leg to be nice and straight. So oftentimes, if we sit a lot, our knees stay very bent. The IT band gets very tight. And then when we walk, we're not supposed to have the straightest legs in the world, but they are supposed to get relatively straight, especially if we stand. Okay. So bring the left leg all the way up and then send to the right. Your choice how deep you go with this. And can you sense where the strengthening or the lengthening is happening? So sensation should definitely be happening, especially in the upper left glute, down behind the thigh, behind the knee, all the way through the shin, and even to probably the ankle, and possibly even the pinky toe side edge of the left foot. However, that sensation should not be burning. If it's causing you a panic, if it's causing your breath to slow or to speed up, then please back away just a little bit. I think one yoga instructor said when a deep pose feels good, it's easy to make peace with it, which means it's easy to be relaxed and calm even though your leg is going, my God, this is a deep stretch. Move to the center, pause in the center for just a moment. Let the glute relax, and then go over to the left. Again, try to keep yourself from tilting the pelvis and the spine to the left, like I just did, and I had to correct myself. You still want your torso straight towards the ceiling. And how much can you release the internal hip near the groin? Good. Now come back up. Release your strap. You know what we're doing. Kick through the heel. Ground down for that right foot. So have a decent little pressure into it. Engage your abs. Tilt the pelvis in. Naturally, the pelvis should easily tilt in with the blanket under, or the pillow under the pelvis. That's why it's there. It's to assist this, but also deepens the psoas stretch. So once the leg gets past that right knee, pause, check in. Are the abs engaged, trying to pull the pelvis in towards the belly button? Are the ribs relaxed with just a tiny bit of strength to make sure that they stay connected to the floor? And then you keep kicking, you keep coming down, and you keep that left leg straight, or as straight as comfortable. And then you pause when you feel like something needs to give before you can touch the ground. Don't give yet, unless you feel you need to. So I haven't touched the floor yet, but I feel my low back really wants to flex, so I'm going to pause here. If you've touched the floor with the heel, great. Stay straight. Now, if you haven't touched the floor, go ahead and bend the knee a little bit to touch down. Whew. And then fully relax. Take a couple breaths here. So as release can be quite intense. Okay, Okay, so bring your left foot back to the mat in constructive rest. Good. Go ahead and remove the pillow from underneath the pelvis. Just set it to the side. Good. So let's do a little bit of integration. Make sure we remembered what we did earlier. So first, I want a few arch and flattens, but only use your low back and the pelvis. So inhale, pelvis tilts away. Exhale, release the low back. Flatten with the abs. Repeat. Come in, flatten. And then relax, pause there. Before we move to the ribs, imagine where they are. Imagine the spine where the ribs are connected. And think. On the next inhale, I'm just going to flare my ribs up off the floor. My low back's going to stay mostly comfortable. It's a tiny movement. And on the exhale, I'm going to relax my ribs back down. I'm going to engage that deep transverse muscle in the front of the body and just kind of flatten the thoracic spine down. Do one more. Inhale. Ribs come up. Shoulders come back a bit. Exhale, release. Flatten the rib spine. And pause there. Fully turn off. And now do 3 arch and flattens with all 3 things, the pelvis, the spine, and the rib cage becoming active. Imagine the ribs and the spine and the pelvis in your head. Inhale, arch, pelvis away, ribs flaring up, chin to chest. Exhale, fully release the back from the ribs melt, the low back melts, the abs engage. Everything flattens. Chin goes towards ceiling. A couple more times. Inhale, release the abs. Arch, arch, arch. Exhale, release the back. Flatten, crunch in. Last time. And come in. Relax. Very good. Take a few breaths here. And then send the left leg long. We'll just do a couple hip resetting movements. And now that we know about how to turn off the back, the ribs, the pelvis, so everything is going to be very lazy from the torso. The right foot pushes into the floor. Okay, so get the right foot close to the glute enough to where the ball and the heel can all engage. And I want you to push your right knee forward, which allows the right hip to come up, lift up, and it starts to try to get on top of the left hip. Go as far as feels comfortable and pause there. And notice if other stuff has really said, I want to be a part of this. Has your right shoulder lifted off the mat? Relax it down. Good. Has any muscles, like such as your ribs, are your ribs trying to flare up? Relax the ribs. Now melt back down. Okay, pause here. So we're going to do that one more time. Actually, no, 2 more times. This time, when you come back up, relax your ribs. So your ribs are naturally going to start to turn to the left. But oftentimes, we arch the mid back and low back for this position. Naturally, some arching will occur, but you don't want to try to assist it by flaring your rib cage out. Relax the right shoulder down as well. And let's go. Push the right knee forward, lift the right hip up. How lazy can you leave your back? The only thing that's guiding this movement is that right leg and the strength pushing the right knee forward. Relax, melt back down. So this hip resetting is also a bit of a twist. One more time, just move fluidly right into it and move fluidly right back down. Pause for one breath. And switch sides. So right leg comes out, left leg comes in, plant it. Okay. Same thing, push the left knee forward, lift the left hip, pause at your fuller or the expression that's good for you. Check in with the left shoulder, check in with the ab or the upper back, the thoracic spine, the ribs. Are they trying to flare? Relax the ribs. Relax the low back. This is all coming from your leg. And then melt down. So we're teaching the back to be kind of gelatinous and chilled out. Go again. Lift the hip. Turn everything off. Melt back down. Good. Last time, just move fluidly all the way into the fuller expression, or the fullest that you want to do today, and then flow right back down. Good. Now from here, I guess we'll go ahead and do that. Yeah, so I want you to tilt your pelvis in, flatten your low back to the mat, okay? Now, keep your abs engaged. Bring your feet together. And let your knees come out like a butterfly. So keep the abs engaged. So your low back may not be pressed into the mat, but if it can't be, that's okay. But keep the abs engaged a bit. Relax the upper back. Now from here, slowly release your abs, very slowly. Try to not let your low back arch intuitively or habitually. It can naturally arch a little bit, especially if you're someone who has a low back arch like myself. But the point is, you just want to turn off the abs very slowly. And if the arch shows up very slowly, that's okay. That's just more your natural curve. And then once you've fully turned off the abs, you'll stay here in laying goddess. Now, if you want to bring a blanket over the pelvis, kind of over the groin, over the pelvis, and then take another blanket and bring it over your belly and over your chest. And just stay here for a few breaths. Let everything settle. If you're getting a lot of sensation in the internal hip groin area, I promise your hips are not going to break. If If you needed pillows to put underneath your knees, you can do that as well. But we only have a few more breaths here. If you'd like to stay in laying goddess for much longer, then by all means stay as long as you want. But we only have a few more moments for this class. Okay. So before we come out, I want you to try one more somatic movement here. It's tricky and only do it a little bit. So we're going to be doing an arch and a flatten, okay? But try to only do it with the low back and the pelvis. This is really just about the pelvis right now. So as you inhale, can you tilt your pelvis away? Notice your knees can move out a bit further. And then exhale, relax the low back, and then try to turn your abs on. Oh, tilt the pelvis in. You might feel a lot in the groin there. Go ahead and do it a couple more times. And notice what might be happening with your knees. Do you feel your knees moving out when you tilt away? Do you feel your knees moving in when you tilt in? That's some tight groin, tight hips action. I definitely have that. Good. And then from here, slowly remove the blankets, set them to the side. We don't need them anymore. Take your hands and help guide. Actually, first engage your abs. Okay. And then let your hands help guide the knees just straight towards the ceiling into constructive rest. Pause right there. Try not to bring your knees all the way back together. Stay right here for a few. Let that echo through the system. Good. Now I can bring the knees together, bring them apart, and just give them a little in-out action. And then slowly make your way back to a cross-legged seated position. Take your time. Be very lazy and slow. That was big on my hips. Okay. Go ahead and bring your hands to prayer. Take 3 full, comfortable breaths through the nose. Good. We'll do one collective sigh together. Inhale through the nose. Sigh it out. Inhale, thumbs up to your third eye, let your chest rise. And exhale, bow. Namaste. Good, well done. Thank you for coming to the Restore class. A few things about what we did tonight and some things that you can take with you, especially if you're sitting on a desk, which we're all sitting all day, let's be real. So we all know proper posture when sitting, proper posture and standing is so important. It's important for work productivity because if you're not, feeling tense and tight, you can probably stay there for a bit longer, or you can be not distracted by being in pain. So, how to get in a proper sitting position isn't something that we just go like this. So, oftentimes, I see this when people standing, when people sitting. When you say get more proper position, you see this rib cage flare like crazy, and their pelvis still stays tilted back. And we're all different. Sometimes some of us might have a beautiful pelvic position and everything's very comfortable in the low back, but they slouch just the shoulders. Some people arch the low back and then slouch the shoulders. Some people just bring the rib cage up. Some people, we're all different. So when you can isolate the pelvis and the ribs specifically, then you can get in your upright, good posture chair, lean back, get your low back and pelvis mostly there. Have a little bit of curve in the low back. We all have that. That's normal. And then you can see, is my thoracic spine, is my upper back actually touching the chair? If it's not, then you can try that exercise we did with just the flaring of the rib cage, or not flaring, but moving of the rib cage out of a slouch gently and kind of stay there instead of thinking I need to arch the whole spine. Okay, so that's important for me because my low back likes to arch a lot, too much. Um, and so proper posture for me means I need to just locate my ribs and bring them up and actually scoop my tail forward. Okay, so you can try it. If you lean back against the wall, you can actually try doing the arch and flatten, but by sitting upright against the wall, and that can be you'll realize how tricky it is. And that's all. Thank you very much for coming. These are all donation based classes. There is a couple changes happening to the schedule next week. Yeah, so I'm going to be start offering some Zoom classes and whatnot. That's all. Yeah, thanks for coming. Hope you have a good day.